Guys, what's up? Darcy here at Six Strings Nine Lives. Today I'm going to take a look at my top 10 metal comeback albums. I kind of touched on this subject a little bit on an episode of Six with Six Strings about a year and a half ago, just talking about if bands were better or worse after a long hiatus. So comeback album to me, the rule is that they had to be away for a long time. There is a big difference between a comeback album and a bounce back album. So for example, Iron Maiden, from Virtual 11 to Brave New World. To me, Brave New World is not a comeback album. It's a bounce back album. Yes, they had some fortunate events where Bruce and Adrian come back, but they didn't go away. Now, in these 10 bands, albums that I'll show you, these range from being away for 9 years to 33 years. So I'll just go through them. I got a couple honorable mentions, and why they're honorable mention is I don't own them. I should own them, and I need to fix that. But two honorable mentions for this favorite comeback albums would be Onslaught, what's it called? Killing Peace. I need to get a copy of that. It is a real return to form. 18 years had passed since their In Search for Sanity album, so I need to get that. And another one I only have actually on my phone is Alice in Chains, Black Gives Away to Blue. Fantastic album. Great return after 14 years. You know, where I thought maybe Jerry Cantrell would just continue on his own. You know, he got everybody back together, brought in William Duvall, who's a great fit in the band. Those harmonies with Jerry are still fantastic too. Yes, you can never replace Lane, but I need to get that album too. So here's I'm going to put these in some sort of order of, 10 through 1. Really, there's no, I love all these albums, and there's no, big important, well, yeah, there is. We'll go from 10 to 1, and it's kind of my, importance list right to the top. But yeah, the top 5, I would say, are just really mean a lot to me, and I love those albums. But let's get started. And by the way, within these hiatuses of, the hard and fast rule, 9 years to 33 years, it's up to you, but 9 years is plenty to qualify for my list. There's other bands too, like Judas Priest. That was a bounce back album to me. And then there's other bands like Tool that just take fucking forever to make an album. I don't consider those comeback albums whatsoever, but let's start off with, and I'll flip-flop with showing you what they came back from or vice versa, whatever fits. So in 1991, one of my favorite US power metal bands comes out with this album. This is Armored Saint, Symbol of Salvation. Just one of my favorite albums of all time. It's actually on my list of videos. And then 9 years pass. John Bush goes and joins Anthrax. They do, in that time period before this comeback album, which I might as well just hold it up, Armored Saint, Revelation. They get the lineup back together from Symbol of Salvation, and they come out with this album. But John Bush goes to Anthrax. He does Sound of White Noise, fantastic album. Then you got Stomp 442, just okay to me. And then you got the absolute shitty album, Volume 8. And then this comes along. And then John goes back for one more album and then returns back to Armored Saint. But anyways, always been one of my favorite comeback albums. Just kind of picking up right where they left off with Symbol of Salvation, although not as good in my opinion, but there are some killer tracks on here. So what I'll do is just name a couple, let's go 3 tracks per album type of thing. But if you've never heard Armored Saint, The Pillar, that's the one you need to check out right away. My second favorite song on here is called Deep Rooted Anger, and then I would say check out Creepy Feelings. But great comeback album from 2000. The only thing with Armored Saint is they're slow as shit. I mean, after this, La Raza doesn't come out till 2010, so that's 10 more years. That could be actually another comeback album. And then they're kind of on a 5-year cycle now. So Punching the Sky came out in 2020. So we're due for a new Armored Saint this year. So looking forward to that. Let's jump to, well, here's one of those 33-year ones. And here is, I'm going to show you the, we'll just show you the return of Toxic, and this is Dysmorta. This came out in 2022, so yeah, this cover is absolutely, honestly, it's shit. It's not great. It's just a bunch of miscellaneous stuff thrown together and kind of mirrored. I think they could have did a little bit better of a job because their other two album covers are fantastic, but what counts is the music inside. So this is Josh Christian's band. He has got some new players put together. And this is one of the bands in my collection that only have 3 albums, and all 3 albums have a different vocalist, and all 3 albums are pretty awesome. So so that is the follow-up to, what was this, 89's Think This, which is just a technical thrasher piece. Let's throw it right in that category. And then, of course, you have World Circus from 87, probably. You know, don't quote me on exactly on the years, but this, if you know this and you haven't bought this, I encourage you to check it out. Favorite track on here is Straight Razor. Wraps up with a great tune called Judas. And I would say, where is it? Hyper Reality. Check out that track. But if you're only going to check out one track from this, check out Straight Razor. It is absolutely 200 miles an hour, nonstop. Ridiculous guitar work on here from Josh. Great vocals from the new guy. We'll just call him the new guy. We're not going to get into all the band members and stuff, but yeah, Dysmorta from 2022. Personally, I hope that's not the last we've heard of Toxic, which kind of reminds me, there's another one that won't hit this list that from last year. I just haven't spent enough time with it, and that's Atrophy Asylum. Fantastic artwork too. Great album. It's one of those classic cases where it's one member bringing back, you know, a full team of great musicians and putting out a damn good thrash album, which, you know, that single member thing will come up a few times, like on Toxic for sure. What number are we on? We're going to go number 8, and this is my favorite glam hair metal band of all time, which if you watch my channel, you'd already know that it is Rat. And we showed that. So this is Rat's last studio album. They only put out 7 studio albums. Only one bump in the road as far as that's concerned, but this is Infestation from 2010. So here we are 15 years later and still no new Rat music. There is some Stephen Pearcy music out there that you need to check out. Stephen and Warren are back, going to be touring together, which is a good sign. And, you know, if they ever reformed as much of a Rat as they could and put out a new album, I'd be all over that. But so this is a comeback album. The last one before that came out in 11 years before, and that is the Rat self-titled. This one, they're as a 4-piece. At this point, they didn't even try to replace Robin Crosby, and Robin actually was, you know, still around, but he probably wasn't doing that good. He passed away in 2002. This came out in 99, so 3 years after this was released, Robin is passed, sadly missed. But so Infestation, having trouble saying that word, is the follow-up to this album. And prior to this, 9 years had passed since Detonator. But this, if you've slept on this one, this is a really good album. When it first came out in 2010, I thought it was a little bit front-loaded with the great songs like Eat Me Up Alive, Best of Me, a little too much. But classic Rat sound. But as I've listened to it, and it's aged well, and as far as filler, there's 11 tracks. It's probably about 42 minutes, which is a little longer than a normal Rat album, not by much. But yeah, there's only a couple filler tracks on here, and that's near the end, I would say. But definitely check this one out. Desperate need of a proper reissue. I would think a company like MOV would get a hold of this. That would be nice. I know there's those bootleg, unofficial bullshit albums. I wouldn't even drop a dime on stuff like that. But great album. Check it out. Great comeback album, I should say. Continuing on the glam theme, here is one of my favorite albums from 2023, and that is Winger 7, obviously their 7th album, which, to me, if you know the band, should have been called, it should have been named after the last track. It all comes back around. Even this logo came back around. The original logo's back. The Phoenix on the cover, which the past 3 albums, they actually used it too much in my opinion, but this is the best version of the Phoenix so far. But what a comeback album. The previous album from that was Better Days Coming, that came out in 2014. So 9 years had passed. And I would say out of all these bands I'm talking about today, this is probably the only one that was just, you know, they didn't break up or anything. They're just kind of on a hiatus. I know Reb Beach was involved with Whitesnake and doing a bunch of stuff with David Coverdale. But when this came out, exceeded my expectations. Just awesome. First single, Proud Desperado. Great track. And well, like I said, I'll name 3 tracks. Check out Resurrect Me. It is infectious. The guitar work, awesome. Kip Winger's vocals, still killer as far as I'm concerned. And then this wraps up with one of my earworm songs of 2023. It All Comes Back Around. That song's got everything. I would definitely encourage you to check that track out and this album. Fantastic comeback album. So I do hear that these guys are on a kind of a farewell type of tour from touring. I hope that doesn't mean that's no more new music from Winger, because out of some of these bands that still are around from the 80s, these guys are still next level musicians. I know they got a bullshit bad rap back in the day, which is, it always ticks me off, because these guys are, they could blow anybody away from that era as far as musicianship and just professionalism. But anyways, what's next? What number are we on? That was number 7. So number 6, here is a comeback album that probably 6-7 years ago, I wouldn't have put it on this list because I wasn't as fond of it as I am now. And that is Death Angel, The Art of Dying. So this one came out in 2004. This is the follow-up to Act 3, which you know from 1990. Lots of shit happened, bus accident. They kind of broke up. Act 3, which is just one of my favorite thrash albums of all time right there. So follow-up to Act 3 is The Art of Dying. Initially, I wasn't that warm to this, but man, has this one, I think this one has just came full circle for me. I'm not saying I'm getting sick of, but the newer stuff, some of these bands, and another band will appear in this list shortly, they're just trying to be too heavy. They're not being as inventive as an album like Act 3. But if you wanted the closest thing to Act 3, this is it, in my opinion, The Art of Dying. You still at this point have 4/5 of the original lineup with Mark Osengueda, Dennis Peppa, Andy Gallion on drums, and Rob Cavastani. And then Ted Aguilar has been in the band on this album and has remained in the band to this day. He's great too. What I love about this album is everybody's, everybody I think except Ted sings a song. Dennis has a track. Andy has a track. Actually, Dennis has a track that's one of my favorites. It is Land of Blood, I think. Land of Blood, great track. And then Rob does quite a bit of the, not quite a bit of the vocals, but Rob does some of the vocals too. But Thicker Than Blood, that's a great track. Thrown to the Wolves, leading off the album. There's a little heavier stuff for Death Angel, well, but a great track too. But definitely check out Land of Blood. I love that track, and it kind of just brought me back to 1990 and kind of like a continuation of where they would have went. So this album easily could have fit into 1992 or 94 type of thing. But yeah, great comeback album. And the one after that, Killing Season, that's in need of a reissue too on vinyl. That should be next. Not bad either, but I would go with this one. All right, number 5. And this gets into some of the, I'm not going to say important stuff, but just more important for me. Obviously some of my, as I always say, got a lot of favorite bands, but some of my favorite bands are right here. So this, coming in at number 5, is a fantastic comeback from 1993 from Merciful Fate, In the Shadows. And you know what this album is following up or coming back from. 1984's absolute masterpiece, Don't Break the Oath. We'll set that one aside. We know that one. And what we have here is 4/5 of the original lineups. What do we have? The only different with, Sherman Denner, Timmy Hansen on bass. Rest in peace, Timmy Hansen. Of course, King Diamond on vocals. And Snowy Shaw on drums, which Snowy Shaw was on King Diamond, The Eye. Then they went and did this album, In the Shadows, and then he followed King Diamond back. He followed King Diamond back over to the King Diamond Band and appeared on The Spider's Lullaby, which is another, I wouldn't consider that one a comeback album because that was only 5 years since The Eye, but nonetheless, great album, The Spider's Lullaby. But back to this album, fantastic cover, love this. The old oak, little standing in a museum type thing, got the Headless Horseman in the background. Tracks to check out on this one. My personal favorite track on this album is called 13 Invitations. Just a fantastic riff, and of course, King Diamond. If you're on board with the vocals, I hope you are. But anyways, kicking off the album with Egypt, another great song to check out, and The Old Oak. But again, 13 Invitations. Oh, absolutely love that song. Great comeback album after a, what was that? That was only like a 9-year hiatus, but good to have Merciful Fate back. And then basically for the next 6 years, they kind of flip-flop between a King Diamond album, a Merciful Fate album, a King Diamond album. But to this day, we haven't had a new Merciful Fate album for 99, so that 26 years. So that is, I've heard rumors about that. I'm still, both fingers crossed that we're going to see a King Diamond album and a Merciful Fate album here in 2025. But I'll believe it when I see it, I guess. So that was number 5. Number 4. Exodus, Temple of the Damned. Love this album. Got to see them on this tour just after Zetro got fired for his first time. I don't know what time he's on now, which, on a sidebar, honestly, for Exodus, I just want a good album. I do prefer Zetro on vocals, but I've grown to really like some of the Rob Dukes era. But what I want is just a good, hopefully not, as Gary Holt says, heavy as fuck album. Just give us a nice album. Just don't try too hard, Gary. That's all I'm saying. And this is perfect. This is right in the wheelhouse of what I would love to hear from Exodus. So after 12 years and, follow up to a very subpar album and a absolute shit cover from Exodus 1992's Force of Habit. There's some good tracks on here, but overall, yeah, not the greatest. But so 12 years go by, Exodus is back. At this point, we have, a couple new members since that other album. So here the lineup is still the H Team, Hunting on drums, Jack Gibson on bass, fantastic, and then Zetro on vocals. Top tracks, for sure. Number 1, Blacklist. Number 2 for me would be Shroud of Urine, and I would throw in War is My Shepherd, or even Star Spangled Banner. But Blacklist, number 1. That is the chugging riffage that I want to hear from Exodus, and not the try too hard vocals that Zetro's been, I say, and that's, that's kind of my opinion. Of the past 2 albums, he just screaming too much, just trying too hard. This album, he was right in the pocket as far as I'm concerned. So Tempo of the Damned, fantastic comeback album from a 12-year hiatus. All right, coming in at number 3, 14 years pass since Accept was active, and basically what we have here is just a killer return, following up. So what happened with Accept, they kind of went on a different route after Russian Roulette, brought in a new vocalist, David Reese, and did Eat the Heat in 1989, which I still love that album. I will defend it. It's a good album. And then that Udo Dirk-Snyder went off to do his own thing with the UDO band. But there was a reunion of 3 albums, and this is kind of the comeback album from... This is Predator from 1996. Yes, 14 years past. Predator is not a good album. It is my least favorite Accept album overall. But Wolf Hoffman, Peter Baltes, and I'd say one of the kind of classic album guitarists, Herman Frank, which I love Herman Frank. They bring in Stefan Schwartzman on drums and Mark Tornillo on vocals, and away we go. But this is still the best of the reunion or reformation of Accept, in my opinion. Fantastic. Produced by Andy Sneap, which at this time, this is what, 2010? Right around that time, man, you really were hearing Andy Sneap. He was all over the place. And he still is to an extent, but probably, a little bit busy with Judas Priest for sure. But Killer Tracks Pandemic, what a great track that is. Teutonic Terror, I think that was the first video / whatever. Great track. And where is it? New World Coming. That is just a kind of a little more mid-tempo, but good to have Wolf and everybody back at this point. Great comeback album there. That is number 3. Number 2 is 9-year hiatus. So we're going to Accept was 14 years, 9-year hiatus for Testament. Lots of things happened. Chuck beat cancer. There was, at the time, Alex wasn't in the band. But anyways, formation of Damnation and the reformation of Testament. Actually, they reformed prior to this. They went and did, so what would have been 2001 that they did First Strike Still Deadly, where they re-recorded some tracks from the first 2 albums. Yeah, I think so. But a great re-recorded album. Always like that, but I don't consider that one a studio album. So this is a comeback from, actually, so 9 years passed from this album, The Gathering. This is the original cover, so I'll show you this one on CD instead. So, Formation of Damnation 2008. You get everybody back, 4/5 of the original lineup. Alex is back in the band. Paul Bostaff is on drums for this album. Does a killer job. It just absolutely shines on this one. But this one, everything just comes together. First track that I heard was More Than Meets the Eye. Love it. Probably my favorite track on this album is the title track, The Formation of Damnation, which that song has everything on it. Some little bit of death vocals. The drumming on that is just next level. Soloing, riffage, all of that. What else? I would say check out, where is it? Henchman Ride. That would be a good track to check out too, but just a solid comeback album. And like I said, they came back from this album. This is The Gathering from 1999, then went away for 9 years. And if you've somehow missed this one, Don't slough this one off. This, I actually put this album just above Formation of Damnation. That's how good this is. Dave Lombardo on drums. Who else? James Murphy's on here. Just the perfect mix of Testament. If you threw everything Testament ever did in a blender, you would come out with this. It's just killer. To wrap up this episode, here's my #1 comeback album of all time. And this one, you know, I wasn't even into these guys back in the day. I kind of learned, or got to know their stuff over the years. But my #1 comeback album, and if you know this channel, you're going to already guess this, is Possessed, Revelations of Oblivion. 19, what was this? Oh, sorry, 19. This is 2019. This is actually my album of the year from 2019. Just edging out Overkill, I think. But man, what a return. 33 years. Jeff Becerra comes back with just 4 absolutely killer musicians. We have Robert Cardenas on bass, Claudius Kramer and Daniel Gonzalez on the guitars, and Emilio Marquez on drums, a fantastic drummer. I think this band is intact except for Emilio. There's somebody else on drums now. So Emilio has left. But this one, when I first heard it, I thought, man, this shit is too harsh, but it's not. It just grew on me and grew on me. And like I said, album of the year, just everything on here, you know, subject matter, things like that. That shit doesn't bother me. It's all about the music. And, but yeah, favorite tracks, Dominion, Damned, absolutely awesome. Which track is on? Graven. There's nothing weak on this album. And I am, so this is the follow-up to Beyond the Gates from 1986. And this is that version where it has 87's The Eyes of Horror on it also, which is one of my favorite EPs of all time. And that one is just, like I said, I wasn't with Possessed when Seven Churches came out. I wasn't into death metal back in the day, even though I don't consider this, honestly, this isn't death metal to me. This is just thrash with blackened thrash vocals, whatever you want to say. This is more thrash than it is death metal. I won't argue about the Seven Churches, whatever, doesn't matter. But so follow up to this, 33 years. And what I'm hoping for is, and what there was rumblings of Jeff working on a new album. I hope it is this year. I know he's going through a few things, health-wise and otherwise, but still, fingers crossed for a new Possessed album here in 2025, because this one is just, it's a thrasher piece for sure. So if you haven't checked this one out, check it out. But there's my top 10 metal comeback albums. Yeah, different forms of metal in there. A good mix of what I listen to. And but yeah, there's a few that didn't make the list. I could probably make the list a little longer, but these ones I feel like I can honestly say, they are my favorite type of thing. So, and again, remember, come back, not bounce back. But hope you enjoyed that episode. Until next time, stay heavy.